Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I have a first grader and we say 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. So thank you all for being yeah, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Thank you all for being here tonight and thank you for inviting us to this venue and have this nice waterfront view. I'm Megan Houston. I'm the Resilience Director for Palm Beach County's Office of Resilience. We are a 3-person team, one of the smallest offices with a mighty task of working on climate change issues. So sea level rise, extreme heat, flooding, things that we see all around us, but maybe we don't always collectively think about how to plan the future. That's our job. And so this process, this evening, we're going to talk about some of our risk assessments and our planning process for how we're going to think about our future in Palm Beach County. We're working with a team of consultants, and I'm going to hand it over to Georgia in a minute. But we really appreciate you all being here tonight because this planning will be going on for 2-3 years, and then we have years and years of implementation, and we're going to be visiting that. And this planning that needs to happen needs to have community input. So we know what's important to you. What do you love about your community? What do you want us to be focused on? What are your needs? And how can we pursue grant funding and capital planning that best suit the needs of the county and the residents and the businesses? So I want to just thank you all again for being here and sharing your evening with us. Thank you for the food from Muck's Tavern, and I will now hand it over to Georgia. Thank you. Oh, and I'm always supposed to say, make sure to recycle. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, so just a couple of housekeepings. The restrooms are across the way there in the back. We do have lovely refreshments here. As Megan mentioned, please, with your drinks when you're done, if you could put them in the recycling bin, and there's a garbage can in the back if for all of the garbage. My name is Georgia Vince. I'm with a company called Tetra Tech. I'll give you a little bit introduction about our team in a moment. This is our agenda tonight. We really want to interact with you all this evening. We want to hear from you. We want to know who you are. We want to get your input and your feedback. So it is critical for our project to have your information and your suggestions, recommendation, your needs outlined in our plan. So today's agenda, as I mentioned, do team introductions. We're going to talk about climate change, give you a little overview, get everybody on the same page. We'll talk about our specific project, background and purpose. The county is doing a lot of projects, but in particular, we'll talk about this planning process. Again, we really want your community values to be incorporated into our planning documents. And so that's why you're all here tonight, to give us a lot of good input and feedback. And then we'll take any questions you have. So as I mentioned, my name is Georgia Vince. We're supporting Palm Beach County Office of Resiliency on this project. On my team here with us tonight, I have Brazaga and S.A. Nelson, Sophia and Tammy, a lot of you know. They're supporting our project. Erin Dede is in the room with us tonight. She'll be presenting some of the slides for us. And we also have two other businesses that we're working with, Chen Moore Associates and Clearview Geographic. So from here, what I'd like to do is allow you all to tell us who you are. And Tammy's going to accommodate everyone stating their name. And if you want to say a little bit about why you're here tonight, that'd be great.
Thank you, Georgia. As you see, we have a full room in here today. So it's really, really exciting to see so many of the people from our community show up to have their voices be a part of this entire process. So I think because you know audience, you know who the team is, the team would like to know who's in the room with us. So if we can just go around and introduce ourselves, if you're representing an organization or an elected, please indicate that as well. So we'll start with Ms. Olivia.
Good evening. I'm Olivia Hogan. I represent Seed Preschool Center. I'm here with Ms. Linda.
Hi, my name is Miss Linda Ajapon Reynolds, and I am
the owner of Appleseed Learning Center, as well as Pahokee Dance Academy. So I don't really know why I'm here, but I'm excited to find out why.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm Dolores Robertson, and I just wanted to come with my friend.
Good evening, I'm Allie Biggs, and I'm a citizen here in Pahokee, very much concerned about the climate change and things that are going on around about us.
Good evening. My name is Clara Murray. I'm the vice mayor here of the city of Pahokee to learn more about the climate change since we live so close to water, to Lake Okeechobee.
Good evening. My name is Sanquetta Calvin Williams. I am a resident of Pahokee. I'm also a teacher here in Pahokee, and I'm also a community member that's concerned about Pahokee. So I'm here to learn more about the information so I can do what I can to provide the community with information as well.
Good evening. My name is Chris Bolden. I am a resident of Pahokee, and I am the president of a nonprofit organization, Bolden Community Impact. I'm here because I love my community and I want to support any positive initiative that happen in the city of Pahokee.
My name is Elia Dean. I'm the director at Bridges at Pahokee, and I'm here just to gain as much information as possibly can so I can bring that information back to our members and the residents of the community.
Good evening. I'm Regina Boland. I represent County Commissioner Sarah Bax, and I'm here because I'm also a resident of Pahokee.
I'm gonna give it back to her. Give me a second, Tam. I got it. You gotta talk.
Okay. My name's Araceli Chavarri. I'm here with Healthier Glades.
Good job.
My name is Mark Walker. I'm a resident of Pahokee. I'm also a steering committee member of Healthier Glades. I'm here because I love this city.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Annie Eiffel. I'm the director for Healthier Glades. I'm also a resident of Belglade. I actually participated in the focus groups that you had. So I'm curious to hear about the results from those focus groups.
Good evening. My name is Keith Babb. I'm the mayor of this beautiful city that you're in. I'm here to learn a lot about climate control and changes. You know, we are called the Sunshine State, but that's an understatement. I think now in Florida, we probably get maybe 3 weeks of winter, cold weather. So I'm looking forward to be able to take out the larger coat sometime and just enjoy the cooler weather.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bryant. I am a citizen of Pahokee. I was born in Belglade and raised in Pahokee since the 4th grade. So I am very interested in learning more about climate control that is being affected in this area, what we're actually doing, the studies that are going on. I also represent Senator Lori Brayman. I'm her legislative aide.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Juan Gonzalez. I'm a city commissioner of the city of Pahokee, and I'm just here to learn what's going to be spoken about today.
My name is Lily Malone. I'm a citizen of Pahokee, and I'm here on the invitation.
Hi, my name is Brenda Brinson. I am the property manager of Amaryllis Gardens, and I'm here to get information so I could take back to my residents.
Good evening. I'm Devatris Lindsay with Florida Rural Legal Services. I'm a staff attorney there, and I am here to learn and to observe.
Good evening. My name is Jonjolyn Adams. I'm the Community Economic Development Director for the City of Pahokee, and I'm here to gather feedback. We're looking at resiliency, how we can better change our community and start to grow. So all the information I gather from tonight will help when we're seeking funding and being able to improve our city.
Good evening, everyone. Derek Bolden, City Commissioner, City of Pahokee. Here to learn a bit about climate change. I think it's going to really help us make decisions. We need to understand how the trends impact us And like I said, I think it will help us make better decisions. Of course, with how hot it's been, I think we need to probably prepare ourselves for the future. Maybe this is going to be a trend that we need to consider cooling stations and things like that. So as she said, we need to seek funding for those types of things.
So you know who's in the room, Georgia, and I think it's going to be some great discussion. Oh, girl, what you sitting back there for?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Cortez. I'm with the South Florida Water Management District. I work specifically in the resiliency office. It's a new office. We are a regional agency, but we love these events. So thank you for Palm Beach County to putting them together. That way we can also get closer to the community. My main goal really is to support the Palm Beach County team in terms of any data or any connections that they need from us to support their vulnerability assessment. And then I also do the stakeholder engagement to connect our scientists and engineers who just speak a whole other language to the communities and to the people who need it.
Now, is there anybody else that needs to introduce themselves? If not, Georgia, you see we have a diverse group of people here today, and I think we're going to get some good feedback and have some good dialogue.
First, I'm going to just play a short video. It's about a minute long. I know videos can be sometimes boring to sit through, but it just kind of get everybody on the same page about climate change and what we're really thinking about today. Oh, didn't go. There you go. Thank you. Where's that? Alec? No volume. Pause it for a second. Hold on. Yes, absolutely. Okay. So everybody in the room, by a raise of your hand, how many of you have observed climate change effects to the around the community? That's what we're here to talk about today.
As a result of the Industrial Revolution that kicked off in the mid-1700s, the Earth's surface is warming up at a never-seen-before rate. A major reason for the rise in temperatures is the increase in the concentration of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere. These cause our planet to retain heat from the sun. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane are released into the atmosphere when fossil fuels are burned. Trees and oceans absorb carbon dioxide, but can't handle the large amounts that are now building up in the Earth's atmosphere. And because our forests are shrinking, even less carbon dioxide is absorbed. The high levels of carbon dioxide are already acidifying oceans, killing off coral reefs. It's also triggering a dangerous rise in sea levels and an increase in extreme weather events. Around the world and across Europe, innovators are now racing against the clock to invent new ways to live in our cities, use land, manufacture products, and run our businesses. New innovations are bringing down greenhouse gas emissions to confront climate change and its threat to our health and our economies, while creating new, sustainable growth and jobs.
So obviously climate change there's a myriad of risks and threats associated with climate change. We're going to be looking closely at Palm Beach County and specifically the threats that are affecting Palm Beach County and the Western communities. Since they've been tracking hurricanes, Palm Beach County has had 57 hurricanes within 125 miles of the county. And we have 11 shorelines that are considered eroded. That's 35 miles of the 47 miles of shoreline that we have. So we also know that there are increased risks to homes, human health, businesses, and infrastructure. And we're here today to tell you that Palm Beach County is proactively looking to address these climate threats. So flooding, I think everybody knows what flooding is when we get too much rain and not enough time for that to get off of our streets or out of our yards. Extreme heat, where the temperatures rise and remain higher. I think we all have been feeling this recently as we have had heat advisories almost every day this summer. So when the extreme heat is when we have long periods of those high temperatures. Drought is when we don't have enough rain coming to our area. Severe storms or weather events that include, hail and lightning and high winds and all those storms that we see popping up around town. Hurricanes and tropical storms. I mean, Idalia turned from a 2 to a 4 within hours as it came across the warm Gulf of Mexico earlier this week. So we're certainly seeing more Category 5, 4, and 5 storms pop up. And then coastal erosion is from wind and waves and currents along the coastline taking away the shoreline. And wildfires, those are those fires that burn uncontrolled across the landscape, affecting air quality and human health. And so these are the things that we're going to be focusing on. So where's my mic lady? So, here's a list: sea level rise, extreme rain, coastal erosion, droughts, increased intensity of hurricanes, decreased agriculture, increased frequency of wildfires, water intrusion, and extreme heat. So we want to hear from you. What impacts are you aware of? What are you seeing? What are you observing? What's affecting your day-to-day lives here? And they don't have to be just these. If you have other climate change threats that you're aware of that you want to toss out, we're certainly willing to hear those, but we really want to hear what climate impacts you're aware of.
Everybody don't speak at once. I do know that there may be some issues that may be on your mind. This is your opportunity to bring those forth, ask those necessary questions so that your conversations can be included in this plan.
Biggest concern is extreme heat. It is so hot here in the county, in Florida altogether. We have folks dying of heat exhaustion and heat strokes. So I don't know what can be done to curb that, or can we be proactive as a community, as a city, to try to lessen the impact of the heat? But that's one of my biggest to date, is the hotness of the community.
So I think we've heard heat in all of the programs we've had. Miss Maddie, you were gone when we introduced ourselves, but I'm going to come to you and I want you to talk a little bit about what are some of these that you are concerned with. Just a moment.
One of my concerns are extreme rainfall when we have severe storms. I know in the past, East Lake Village, when it rains, it floods in East Lake Village. So one of my concerns is for those homes that are out there, how they're flooding, if that is something we can look into to make sure that when it rains, or I'm not sure if the city has good storm drainage systems throughout the city or not, or maybe a survey or something of that can be done of the city. Someone can come in to see, so that when we do have severe rainfall or storms to come through, that we can actually get that. Because I know in Citizen Village it used to do the same thing, but a couple of years ago, we had that the county came in, and so now we do have where it doesn't really flood out there anymore because they came in to take care of that. But I know that is one of my concerns, that we have, that when you run through the road, water's in the road, and we really don't have anywhere for the water to run off to. So that's one of my main concerns.
Excellent, thank you.
Ms. Maddie.
Maddie Crawford, City of Pahokee. And my concern, I work with a group of senior citizens, and I guess all year long, I have concerns about the weather. And one weather about the storm when they come in and how to get to make sure that the seniors are in a safe place and their needs be met. And also about the lake. If hurricane coming down, the surge coming in and all this, and the condition of the lake, is it safe or do we leave? I know the last time they were scared of the lake flooding, and everybody had to get up and leave. Mandatory, everybody was mandatory to leave. Yeah, evacuation. Thank you. So I guess all season long in this area, I do have concern about whatever weather come up, mostly because of my senior citizens, and I'm a senior citizen and can't see them, and so I need to know. We need to know in advance and get some things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Maddie. Miss Brenda.
Coastal erosion is a big issue for me as well, especially on the muck. When we have a lot of rain and a lot of flooding going on, it's sinking, and so houses are sinking as well. And so how are we going to control that? I know there's no correction per se, but how do we control that, and what are we looking at, and what can we do to help with those levels?
Thank you for that, Brenda. And then if you spend any time up here on the Lake, Georgia, not only do we have concerns with coastal erosion, we have some erosion along the lake bank as well. So that is a legitimate concern. Any others?
I think Ms. Maddie covered one of them for me. It's two-part for me. The extreme rain costly on the lake and the rise of the lake, the levels on the lake. Also, as the mayor said, the extreme heat, because this year's been one of the hottest summers that we've had. And I mean, it's been extremely hot, even for our kids that play sports, it's been, so those two are some of the keys to me.
When you said there was 45 miles of shoreline, does that include the lake?
No, that's just along the ocean. That's along the
Why is
ocean.
the lake not included in that?
That was it was just a statistic about the coast, so
Oh.
it should be included.
We are part of Palm Beach County though,
I know.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. Just checking.
Thank you. Yes.
As I look at this, this graphic, a couple of things are coming to mind. And a lot of us talked about the heat. And I'm thinking more along the lines of, I remember as a child growing up here, we used to go out and play, used to be out in the sun, but now it's to the point that the sun is like, it's really just burning your skin. So that makes me think about the ozone layer. So then I'm also looking at where you see where it has increased frequency of intensity of wildfires. We don't have wildfires per se, but we do have agricultural burns. And so what effect does that have on climate change? And then when we start, and Tammy did bring up a point about the droughts. So up until recently, we were not getting any rain at all. So it's good that we're getting the rains, but keep in mind, we live all on soft soil. So, your house sinks, with the mud, how does that impact your structure of your house? And right now they just finished doing some repairs on the dike. So I'm glad that they did that because as a result of the last couple of hurricanes, like Gene and Wilma and all them. So there's a lot of things that we could be discussing on that. So.
Yeah, and then I think we have one more. You had one, Olivia? And then Brenda. But you see that there are a lot of concerns here in this community relative to climate change, possible risks that local residents would be acted with. So this is a good dialogue.
When I look at all of these items as well, it draws me to the agriculture, which we are, that's what we do in this area. And all of this weather, the climate change drastically affect the agriculture, especially the oranges and then all of the other vegetables as well that are harvested. So now we're ending up paying more monies for food because we don't have as much, we're not as plentiful as we have been in the past. So all of those things affect us, just our livelihood and all.
Are there any others? I do know, Georgia, and you're aware that there was a conversation with the electeds and some of their key level staff persons. And they talked about resiliency projects that they are working on in addition to what the county is working on. I do want to recognize that we have the Pahokee City Manager that just arrived, Mr. Rodney Lucas. So thank you for joining us. Do you have any dialogue or anything relative to what we're talking about, things that you see on the screen that might be critical to our community because of the climate change?
Recently, we had some scientists come to our office and they said that we can reharness some of the algae, some of the blue-green algae, and convert it into some form of fertilizer. So, you know, those are things that we can also look at countering things that come our way.
All right, any others before we move on? This has been great discussion. All of this, remember, is being captured by the county as they prepare the plan that they're going to be working from to address climate change in the community.
So just to kind of set the stage for the remainder of the conversation today, we're really here to talk about climate resiliency and becoming adaptive to these climate change scenarios that we're seeing and observing and suffering through, really. So there's a couple of terms that we'll be talking about tonight. Adaptation is preparing for and adjusting to climate change impacts. Mitigation is trying to reduce or fix the cause of the climate change threat. And then sustainable development is something that we want to, of course, include in all of our growth analysis to make sure that the community's growth needs are being protected for future generations. So these are things that we're going to be focusing on in our planning documents to get us to the end game. I'm going to hand it over to, oops, I went the wrong way again. We're going to have like 16 meetings, so maybe I'll get in. All right. Hand it over to Aaron Dede to talk about the project, how we got here, a little bit about the history, and then what our plan is to get us there.
Good evening, everybody. So my name is Erin. I live in Eastern Palm Beach County, and I was born and raised in Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. So I am a local Palm Beach County resident, and I have a 5-year-old daughter. So she shapes a lot of how I view what I do for a living. So talking to you tonight, a lot of times I'm talking about going to a park with her and having to take extra water bottles and worrying about whether or not she's putting on enough sunscreen, and what happens at school when they let them out during the day. Are they making them drink enough water? The heat is something that I really think about a lot, especially with my little girl. So anyway, talking today about this project, what we're really trying to do is get feedback, because there are different elements of these climate stressors that affect the community in different ways. And so we're trying to understand that. The issues that may be important to the Western communities may be different than what the Eastern communities are considering. But I think one thing that is kind of a thread with all of this is our infrastructure, the roads, our drainage, some of these things that allow us to be able to pick up our kids from school when it's raining and not have to worry about driving through floodwaters and that type of thing. And so that's what this is about. This is about trying to figure out what those threats are. Somebody mentioned earlier a specific neighborhood. I hope that you will write that on one of the boards before you leave tonight, so we know to look at some of the technical work and align that and make sure that we understand what's happening in that particular area, so we can potentially recommend projects to deal with that area of flooding. But really what we're trying to do here is utilize also resources from the state, because the state of Florida has been pretty good about pushing money down to local communities to help them plan, and also help them implement projects to respond. So that's one of the main reasons that we would be implementing this plan and that we're undertaking this effort. We're collecting a lot of data. We don't just make it up as we go. What we're trying to do is work with the individual communities to understand what drainage plans do you have, what road information do you have, so we can pull that all in together to really formulate a plan that's based on science and based on actual data about the community. Okay, so these are a lot of kind of process words, so I won't spend a bunch of time to kind of reading through it, but we need to assess, we need to collect that baseline information so we can measure progress also. If we want to implement a project, we want to make sure that it's fixing that particular neighborhood. We want to identify ways that we can implement some of these projects. It's not just always about, you know, taxing more and increasing what we have to spend for this infrastructure, but there may be partnerships and ways that we can look at funding some of these projects across the county in a way that's equitable and makes sense. But we also talked about, I think one of the speakers said, you know, I just know when I go outside, I feel like my skin is burning. It's hotter because of the ozone. Well, that's what analyzing greenhouse gas emissions means. You know, one speaker said, we need to protect agriculture because that is our food source and we don't want to pay more for food. But the double-edged sword of that is that some of the activities that the agricultural industry engages in emit greenhouse gas emissions, which contributes to that effect of warming. And we all kind of have that. So we need to look inside about, you know, how we can mitigate these impacts that we're seeing and feeling every day. But absolutely, agriculture is going to need to be a partner in this because they're a big industry, they're an employer, they're an economic base, but we need to work with them to make sure that we can make some changes that are achievable for everybody. And the whole point of this is, I like to call it OPM, other people's money. If we can put together a plan and be able to leverage some of those federal sources of dollars and those state sources of dollars, that's going to make it easier on all of us in our pocketbooks. There we go. So I talked a little bit about collecting data. Data is good, but these kinds of forums are really good too. Finding out where that particular neighborhood is, or you're concerned because there's a bunch of homes in this particular area that are low, and it's maybe not just their streets that are flooding, it's their homes that are flooding in a regular 3-day, 3-hour rain event, that type of thing. But knowing where those hotspots are, that you live those every day and you are concerned about those particular roads, that's really important because that may not show up all the time in the data that we're collecting in the technical analysis. We don't want the outcome of this to be, we find this area over here is really important. And you're saying, no, it's really, 3 streets over. So having that input allows us to ground truth the data and the information that we are collecting. Identifying those climate hazards, we talked a lot about that. But again, I think it's really important to hear directly from the communities because we may not view those climate threats all the same. I've heard more about concerns with heat in this meeting than I've heard in any other climate meeting that I've ever attended. And I know that we are coming off of one of those really, really hot summers, but I think that's something that's really important that resonates. So understanding how those climate impacts affect you. And, obviously we're going to try to come up with some strategies and responses and an ultimate plan that we can put out on the street and come back to you with and get some feedback and input on that. And so in terms of identifying climate risks, there are different ways to view that. There's exposure, a particular road that may flood, but maybe only 3 people live on that road and it's not that important. So we look at the sensitivity. Maybe 100 people live on that road. Maybe there's a store on that road that people use. Maybe there's a school on that road that people drop off and pick up their kids. That road may be far more important than what we think and what the data tells us, because we don't always know how important that particular thing is to the community. And so it's not just understanding what is at risk, it's understanding how is it risk and how is it important to the community. And that's the difference between exposure of something and sensitivity. And then what's the ability to respond? Sometimes maybe it floods for an hour or it floods for 3 days. There's a big difference in terms of what that impact is. And so want to look at all different types of those measures to evaluate that climate risk. And so the thing that's going to make this plan unique is it's going to use data from the local communities. It's going to use tools related to the local communities. We're really got a lot of outreach in this. This is probably one of the most intense outreach efforts that I've ever been involved in. And I think that's pretty cool to really hear from the community, bring back the data and the information that we're collecting and making sure that we're getting it right. And I think that's one of the best things about this project. So let's talk about assets. Okay, that's kind of a weird word, but the state of Florida makes us look at certain things. We're going to look at transportation, transportation assets, roads, rails, marinas, ports. Basically, this is kind of like a port. Critical infrastructure. We're going to look at water, wastewater, drainage, obviously, is a huge one. And then critical facilities. One thing, again, we're talking about the heat. One idea may be that we've seen kind of evolve in resilience planning efforts are cooling centers. Places if it's a really hot day where you can go, it's cool. It may double as like an emergency shelter or a fire station or something like that. But you can go there, you can cool off, you can get water, and you can escape some of the heat. So that might be a strategy. But looking at our critical facilities and how they may be impacted by some of these threats. And then obviously our natural systems, our cultural and our historic resources, those are all really important. So we cast a really wide net in terms of what we call an asset. And so on that note, what might be some really important assets to your community that we may not know about? It could be a church, it could be a youth center, it could be a health center or something where people access services. And so I've said enough. I'd like to hear from you guys as to what some of those assets are so we can record that and make sure that we are including them in the evaluation, because that's the important part.
Thank you, Erin. I think there are a lot of assets here in this community, and this is the time for you to speak up about them. As she mentioned, there may be some that they are not aware of in this community. So we need to talk about some of the assets. And one of them, Mayor Babb, and he talks about this often, is the old high school and how the city wants to work to get it on the national registry. So are there any that we need to make certain are included in this conversation? Yes, Mayor.
This ain't an asset, maybe it's a like of, we really need a community swimming pool in this city that would help with some of the hardness in during the summertime, especially for our youth. So that's something we're going to be trying to seek grant funding and other resources to attain.
Thank you, Mayor. Any others? Yes, Ms. Adams.
I just want to add, because we currently have a Parks and Recreation Department, which, our students after school program, we have our community recreation programs, but being able to add onto our campus where the whole high school is located, we have a charter school that runs there as well. So being able to add to that would be a tremendous effort because it will allow us to do so much more. We also have a church in our community that is up for sale. So having someone, John Jolin would love to be able to purchase that building so that we can be able to add to it by having a theater, if it's a cooling area, being able to do so much more, which will help with our community.
Thank you. I'm coming, Sanquetta.
I would just like to say, I would consider it as a community asset. I know at my church, we had the, the air conditioning when the lights go off, that people can come to the church, the generators. So especially for our seniors, that when the lights go off, that they can come to the church and it's open for the community. And so when they're there, if their lights out, they provide meals for them. So because the community members do go to church there, and some that don't, is open to the community, they can come and they go to the church when there's a storm or something coming, or they have to evacuate. I know we have members, if they evacuate from the trailer park, that they can come to the church and they stay at the church and they provide meals for them. So if the lights go off, they have a generator there.
Any others? Ms. Biggs? Any local assets you want to make certain are included or discussed today?
Tammy, I have a great concern about the homeless and having a place to that they can go other than you know, the parks and etc. Pahokee just need that kind of a facility. I know we have a place down in Canal Point, but this is not what I'm talking about. They have to be eligible to go to that, to attend that. But people that are on the streets, and we know, as they were talking about seniors, I have a great concern for the homeless, because we don't know who they are. And some of them are valid citizens of Pahokee. And if we could find a place or get a place that they can be taken to other than out of the city, sometimes they're going to, some of our own citizens are taken to West Palm and other areas. But just having them to know that there is a safe place for them with these our minds, and I can't say where that can be, hoping that we can get someplace for that, for them. And not only them, any seniors or anybody else that we feel may be in need of help that doesn't realize how they can get it. And then we could help them more at that rate.
One of our biggest assets is this marina. You know, we have campers that's here. You know, we have a restaurant that's here that, you know, people come to. So when things do happen, where would they go if they're here? You know, and that's why our schools also plays a big part of assets, because they do go there if they have to evacuate from their RVs. You know, also one of the big assets is we just open the gym. They also use for a place to go for if there's something they have to evacuate to. So this is one of our biggest assets here in the city of Pahokee.
I'm coming.
One of my main concerns have been, and it could be considered as an asset as well. There are a couple of concerns. One is we talked about this location that we're in, and we know that the dike was built when the storm a long time ago came and everything happened then. But if that water comes over the hill now, it's going to flood Pahokee, and there's nowhere to go. So we're sitting in a fold, if you will. What happens when, as we just talked about, the climate control, climate issues, the seniors in our area, and as Sanquetta talked about, or somebody mentioned the trailer parks. There are a lot of trailer parks here. And when there are hurricanes, many people don't have a location to go outside of Pahokee. What do? How do we help them? We do need to get to West Palm or some other area that's away from the lake. That's going to help some. We know that the coastal in Palm Beach as well, but they're not sitting in a fishbowl. And the locations are much better as far as the trailer parks and those things. They're going to be devastated. So those are some of the things that we need. I also considered the community centers that are in some of the communities, like Pelican, one of the, I can't even think of Paget Island Community Center. When it gets extremely hot, there are so many seniors. We don't know if those air conditioners are working or not. And some of them just suffer it out because they just adapt to it. This is a way of life, and they shouldn't have to. So it's a matter of us in the community getting out and making sure that we are our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper, our grandmother's keeper. We need to know what's going on in the community and in those homes as well, so we know who needs to help when these climate situations arrive. There's just so much that come to mind, that there's so much that we can do.
Thank you. Jonjolyn, you had another one, but I think Georgia and Aaron, you heard loud and clear about cooling stations.
So to add to that, when we talk about our parks, right now we have a couple of pavilions in all of our parks, whether it's from the marina to our MLK Park to Commissioner's Park, but being able to add to those pavilions, that goes back to the vulnerability of where our community, so that we can start putting things in place to sustain those things. I wanted to also add that our partnerships within the community, with our sister cities, with the county, with our funding sources. So those are assets to me, because the better relationships that we have, we're able to enhance our community. I just wanted to talk about FDEP. FDEP is our funder, but it is a partner from everything from East, where we have storm drain funding, to where they have funded our MLK Park that is our funding stream for that. So those are assets to me that if we just start building upon those, when we look at moving towards the future, because again, we're in a vulnerable community already. So all of these climate changes that we're having have such an impact on us that they may not have on the coast, because we're already vulnerable.
Miss Regina.
I think we have a double-edged sword in our city as well, because we're blessed to have some of the roads being redone and that kind of thing. But what I've noticed is that it raises the level of the street. And so we haven't had a big storm that hit us directly, but I'm concerned because as we raise the level of the streets, are then the homes, I think it was Sanquetta who said, yeah, the muck keeps sinking and sinking, so the house level goes down. So we need to really have some kind of way to make sure that when a storm is coming, or as the floods happen and rain happens, that we keep an eye out and make sure, are those homes now starting to flood that never might even had that at all before?
I have a question. I want to piggyback on what Regina just said. Brenda talked about erosion. Just a question, maybe you all can find out an answer for me. Has the state, or when they're in session, have they ever talked about funding for demucking and maybe some of these houses that was built back then, and maybe they may have some funds available that the citizens can come in and apply to maybe get some demucking done to try to bring our houses up to today's standard? Just a thought, to think about.
Yes, I can answer that for you. I do know that there was some discussion, and Mayor Babb was present as well, discussion about some funding to assist with debucking. So not only can we bring in some additional housing stock, but so that we can address some of the issues that are going on now relative to losing the loss of land. Any other questions? This was some good dialogue, Georgia and Aaron. As you see, one of the big pieces is that we are right here on an asset right here in the city of Pahokee. And I think they would very much so like to make certain that that remains. Any others before I give it back to Aaron? All right, thank you.
action plan actually gets put to work. And so we'll have a dashboard that will track all of those things. We're going to come up with a big list of projects, and then we're going to prioritize those. So we're going to come back to you with that list of projects, and we're going to look for your input to help us prioritize those, because we want to know, again, what's important to you. And then we're going to come up with strategies, again, to implement those projects over time. We're going to develop cost estimates. And of course, we're going to have social equity considerations. A lot of that was discussed today. So just to takeaways from today's meeting, Palm Beach County will be affected by climate threats. There are areas of increased risk, and Palm Beach County is proactively addressing the climate change risks to hopefully adapt and mitigate those risks. We're looking to align all of the financial resources with the community, and we really want your input. It's critical. So we want to just ask a few more questions tonight before we close. First, what tools would be most helpful to you to make informed decisions about climate risks to your home or business, your community? Is it financial options, adaptation solutions, training, things of that nature, some more education, anything else you can think of that would be helpful to make and to help you make informed decisions, more meetings like this, things of that nature. So I'll let Tammy kind of see if we can get some responses from you guys.
Okay, you've heard a lot of information tonight. I know a lot of you guys are processing, but what else do you need? What other type of information are you looking for? What else is needed?
Well, I'll just say I think it's important to educate. If you're informed, decision should be based on, you need to learn about these things. You need to learn about hydration. You need to learn about, truly learn about hydration. Because most people know what H2O is. H2O is. A lot of people don't know what H3O2 is. All right. So there's a difference. All water is not created equal. H2O is basically the water that you actually get when you eat fruit. It's the water that is in fruit, and it's actually more hydrating than drinking water. A lot of people don't know that. So when you're dealing with the heat and you're already a dehydrated individual and you think you're hydrated because you drink water or because you drink juice, which actually dehydrates you even more, this has an impact on your health. A lot of people are not educated about those things. So I think it's really important to educate our community. Another thing is in educating our community, I think it's also important to have initiatives that drive members of our action. Oftentimes people look for the city officials to wave a magic wand to make things happen when it's in their power to do so as well. We all should be working together, and they need to know that everything is just not going to be handed over like that. I think we need initiatives to actually drive action on both sides, not just in leadership, but also among citizens. So I think education is definitely an important part of it, especially when you're making decisions about the future of our city and how we're going to adapt to climate change. We need to know about these things. We need to get information about these things. We need to be driven into action in terms of what we can do in our own personal lives in partnership with the city, putting canopies all over the place, canopies in play areas, more covered areas, things like that. So the action is on both sides. And I don't think a lot of us realize that. We kind of count on the city to take care of everything when there are things that we could actually do to make a difference as well.
I like that canopy installation piece. It also increases the property value.
Play areas in the parks. We need canopies and we need covered areas like that. So
great idea.
There is some discussion about community greening in terms of trying to bring more areas that enough trees to try, yeah. So they're working on that now. I know there's been some discussion on that.
Like that idea with increased canopy. Any others? Any others? Yes, Brenda.
I think it's been tapped on because he covered every area there is to be covered. And now But looking at in our area, drainage is key. Again, we talked about the muck and what happens here, the drainage and then the effect of the lake. All of that has a huge dealing with climate control in our area, and we need to know. And again, education is key. Knowledge is power, only if you use it. But we have the information first. And then we need to as well share that information with everyone and share what they can do, because we all play a big part in this. What can I do? How can I help? Everybody has information. Everybody has things that they can do. Some people just don't know what to do. But if you share that information, I think it will make a major impact.
Then Water Management District, she's drainage. And I think there's an opportunity for some education on the primary, secondary, and tertiary system, because a lot of people in our communities don't know who is responsible for what drainage area. So take that back to them and y'all bring that back to the community. Any others?
By a show of hands, who thinks that their home is roof or
Roof or windows?
of the people that think they may need a new windows? Me too. I'm in the process right now. But it is a local tool. It is a local tool that a property owner can use, and the state of Florida just put another $100 million into the program this year, where they will provide a 2-to-1 match for wind improvements up to $10,000. Very easy to apply. Look, you have a user right there.
Yes, Amaryllis Gardens. Okay, I need some roof repair and windows at the property. And I was wondering whether it would help the property, my property, Amaryllis Gardens. Is it only for homeowners or
It's for
for
single
business?
family.
Okay, thanks.
Any others? Any others? Okay, Georgia.
We got one more question for the audience. We want to be able to communicate with you again as we go along the process here. So I'll just go through the list. We do have a dedicated website. I'll show that at the end of the presentation today. The county has newsletters. We have a sign-up sheet in the back of the room if you'd like to receive a resiliency specific newsletter. There are several technical reports on the dedicated website that the county manages, and our friend Natalie is responsible for that. We are going to continue to have public workshops to bring you information as we go along. Is there anything else, any other form of communication or outreach that we can do with your community to help get the word out about this community planning process?
I'm coming, Ms. Biggs.
Would the public workshops be in our area?
Yes.
Oh, we wouldn't have to go to West Palm. Okay.
No,
good.
we are coming to you.
Literature is a major part. Put it in writing, and that way we can distribute it out to all the residents.
Okay, like a pamphlet? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And where do you suggest that pamphlet be stationed? So are you talking about a mailing?
Mail out? Okay. Yes.
I was going to say for Commissioner Biggs asked that question about us being back in the area. What we would like as something to do back for us is to tell us when you're having an event so we can incorporate ourselves in your events instead of having to have you come back out. We would love to come to when you have mass meetings or church events or anything, city council meetings, you invite us back so that we can give you updates and we can, whatever it needs to happen that you want from us as a group. So we'll be happy to do that also.
Then we'd like to invite you to one of the initiatives Mayor Babb has, quarterly town hall meetings. It'll be September 21st from 6 to 7:30. And this initiative will be over housing.
I'm coming. I'm coming, Derek.
I was say if they came to the commission meetings at the 3 cities, most of those are streamed and on YouTube. So a lot of people watch those and you would get the information out that way as well.
I'm coming, Sanquetta. I'm coming.
I'll say this. I think it's very critical to what we do here. You're gonna need a market strategist. You're gonna need somebody. We're gonna kind of really need to be very strategic and creative about the marketing aspect of this. Advertising works, and I think having a specialist involved in terms of getting people to move through marketing and positive propaganda, I think that's going to be critical. I'm just gonna put that out there.
But a whole FTE, y'all. That's right, Derek. Yeah.
I also think that once we get all of this together, how we're going to get it out, like Commissioner Boulder was saying, we have the Divine Nine in the Glades. They are very active. They have a social action committee, and I think that's what Brenda and I was talking about. This would be if you want to get the information in the hands of the community as well, because they do community work. Get the information in the hands of your different sororities and fraternities and get them on board with this as well as getting the information out to the community, because that would be a great social action program.
Any others? I'm coming. Where you going?
I just this week we also started a conversation with our engineer about doing a resiliency study for our community. So we're having that conversation so that we can start moving forward. So this will be a part of this.
Thank you. You want? Okay. All right. Any others before we turn it over?
All right, thank you, Amy and everyone. Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to address Annie's comment from very beginning about the workshops that we had and the stakeholder engagement. So we put together a series of focus groups with a different partner as the kickstart to preparing people for having these in-depth conversations of climate change and vulnerability assessments and what is extreme heat and what are we talking about. So that's the county's vision, is to continue to come back and build that engagement with the communities. And from that feedback, you had asked what ever happened to those results. You know, we heard about extreme heat being an issue in Pahokee and Belglade months ago and the tree canopy issues. So we've been applying and prioritizing funding through grant applications since those meetings through the EPA and the USDA. So we should be hearing about those grant applications and notice of, well, fingers crossed, we hear positive results September through December. That's what we can do while we hear this, while we hear this feedback, as we're building the plan, we hear those ideas and look for funding opportunities so that we can target our responses accordingly while we're doing that longer term planning. So what you all say really does matter, and it does stay with us, and it is how we are shaping our strategic planning. So just thank you again for being here and having this great dialogue. I know I learned a lot, and I continue to be humbled how much you all know, how much you know about your neighborhood, how much you know about climate change, and what's happening. And it's just really inspiring to share this evening with you. Thank you.
So one last opportunity to provide some feedback. These QR codes, you can put your phones right up to the screen here, and they should take you to 2 surveys that the county is currently collecting information with. The one on your left is the climate change survey. It's about 25 questions. It's a little bit longer survey, but it really will help us kind of pinpoint some basic information about your thoughts on climate change, similar to what we did today. And we appreciate it if you would share this with your community members. You can take a picture of the screen. I think we also have some in the back. And then the flooding survey is more of a pinpoint specific. This is where flooding, this is how bad it is. This is what we need fixed kind of survey. And so we'll be tracking those responses as well with the county throughout the study period. Oops. And again, we really appreciate all your feedback today. Whoops. Yeah, I know. I just caught the sunset out of the corner of my eye. This is the website, the Palm Beach County, discover Palm Beach County gov.org/resiliency. If you want to track the project or get any additional information about climate change or find out how to reach out to Natalie and Megan directly, and their contact information is on this website. And again, just wanted to thank you all for coming today. You want me to go back one? Oops, I went the wrong way again. There we go. So thank you all very much for your time today.